Let's see what's in store with the dating doctor. Welcome to the Open to Hope Show. I'm your host, Dr. Gloria Horsley, with my partner and co-host,
Dr. Frank Powers.
And we are the Golden Dating Doctors. I'm excited. I want to tell you our topic today because I know you're going to love it. Challenges of dating after divorce and death.
And we've been on her show.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we have. Sandy's got a book, fabulous, called Choice Points in Dating, Empowering Women to Make Healthier Decisions in Love. Okay, and we wanted to tell you about our book. And our book is Open to Love, The Secrets of Senior Dating. And I know you are going to love the book because we loved writing it, didn't we?
We had a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. We got a lot of great ideas for you on senior dating.
I think it helped our relationship because we learned a lot of things by having to research a lot of stuff.
It was kind of an amazing thing. Right. So anyway, it's on Amazon right now, and we'd love you to get it and also give us a shout out. Let me introduce to Sandy. We just said hi to Sandy Weiner, and I want to tell you about her because she is the Chief Love Officer at Last First Date. She's an international and does a great TEDx talk. Definitely, you should hear it. Dating and relationship coach. As we said, she's an author. She's got her podcast, and we showed you her book and a lot of other things.
Very good.
Well, what we want to talk about now is the challenges of dating after death and divorce. I come from death. My husband died of a staph infection 4 years ago.
I come from divorce.
And Frank comes from divorce. Sandy comes from divorce.
Yes.
So here we go. Let's talk about it.
The difference between the two.
Yeah, important. Let's start with that.
What do you think the difference is between the two?
Well, I think there's a fallacy. There's a myth that people who are widowed have healthy relationships and they are going to be the best.
Yes.
No problems at all in their marriages, and right, they're going to be perfect people to date. And while a lot of them did have healthier relationships, we can't make assumptions about anybody. I'm a big believer in curiosity and finding out about the people and not making broad generalizations about, well, you're divorced, so you're broken, and you're widowed, so you're like a catch, and we should grab you up before somebody else does.
The other thing I've noticed is I got a huge amount of support when my husband died right away. And, people were there, and they were there for, a fairly long period.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no judgment. Oh, this is sad. And I actually met a guy in a grief group before Frank, and it was great. Everyone said,
and they golf through grief.
Yeah, well, we were golfing together, and people would say, well, your husband died 5 months ago and you're golfing with this guy. And I'm like, we met in a grief group.
Oh, it was fine. It's now okay.
Right.
If you were a divorcee and you were golfing through, through the process of divorce, they would have all kinds of judgments.
Oh, red flag city. Yeah.
Well, one of the things that strikes me, though, is I've heard that, well, I know the literature shows that men who had a loss tend to get married 7 months after.
Yeah.
Sandy, what do we women do with that? There's some, do you suggest that people date widowers, or, what do you do?
Yeah, again, everybody's different, but I dated a guy who was widowed just a few months, and he had this relationship with his wife who wanted him to do, I think she had 4 rules for him. And one of them was get out there and date. Well, she put it a different way, get out there and get laid. But
I love it.
Well, she made the point.
She made the point. So, he listened to everything she said. She said, you work too much, quit your job. He quit his job. So now here he is with his wife is gone. They were married like 40 years. He has no job. He's got to make new friends because a lot of them were friends that they had separately. His wife was in a position where she had a lot of group friends. And now he's looking for a wife again. And so he dated me and he said, yeah, I'm really ready. I want to meet somebody. And he was lovely. He was just not ready. And 2.5 years later, he is in a fabulous relationship because he was finally ready. But it took him, I mean, I walked away from that because I could see
knew he
that
wasn't
all we
ready.
ended up talking about was his wife. He was not ready. And I remember years ago, I talked to a guy who was widowed, and we had a Zoom or a Skype back in the day conference call. And the whole time he's talking about his wife, he's showing me things that she created in the ceramics program. And I'm like, he's just so sad and he's not ready. So there are other people who have gone through years and years of sickness and caretaking who are ready. And so again, we have to figure it out for ourselves. Same thing with divorce. Like we can be in a bad marriage and have been separated for a long time until we got divorced, and maybe even living in the same home, but even dating. Some people date before they're divorced. So who knows? You know, there are people whose marriages work out great when they get into a relationship quickly, and there are people who it's just too soon and it's not the right relationship.
So really, you're saying what I've always thought. You really need to know the circumstances, and it's all individual, and you have to take these things into consideration, whether a person is ready or not. And as you date more, I think you get more sophisticated in knowing how to ask the right questions to see if the person's ready or not.
Absolutely.
You know, but there are just a lot of women that Frank and I talk to, more than men, because men seem to have a little easier road of it because of the numbers. And what do you see as the things that stop people from dating? They're lonely, they like the idea sort of, but
Fear.
Yeah, you
Fear.
took the words out of my mouth. I mean, fear stops us cold in dating in general. It's we think we're ready, we do the dance, we're half in, half out. We say we want a relationship, but then we prioritize working out and being with our kids and working. And they're
Any
not,
activity to give us an excuse not to face our loneliness.
or intimacy and
Yeah.
vulnerability. It's scary. It's scary to be open again because we might get hurt. And if you don't open, you will live a very safe life, but you won't have intimacy.
And
So
we
it's
might
this
have to go
catch
through loss
22.
again. Oh my God, that's painful.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very
Yeah.
painful.
Yeah, it takes courage. I love to say, these women who step up and that we work with people to go online,
Oh
which
yeah.
isn't
Oh
easy.
yeah. Yeah.
And it takes a lot of courage.
Yeah. And that's the reason we have thought that people really need to do it with other people. They need the encouragement. They need a support person around, a dating buddy, as we call them.
And Sandy does that coaching,
Yes.
which,
And you need a good coach, or you need a good dating buddy,
yeah,
or both.
you need a hand.
I always say start before you're ready, because if you keep putting it off, you'll never be ready. Definitely do
I
some
like
work.
it. Start
Yes,
before.
that's right.
That's a good line.
That
Start
is very
before
good.
you're
Very
ready.
good. Can we steal that?
You can steal
What our friend
it.
Sandy Weiner says, start before you're ready.
That's right.
I love it.
I remember coaching a woman who was widowed about, I don't know, her very young. So she was raising a son on her own, and he was now 16. So most of his life, he had been raised by a single mom, and she kept putting off dating. And she goes like, you know, I have to be there for my kid. And I said, your kid would be happy for you to get out of the house and leave him alone. Like, you really need to take care of you. And I think that's another issue, is that so many of us were raised, especially women, to put everybody else first. And so to actually get out there and do something kind for yourself and have companionship feels selfish. It feels like that's not the right thing to do. Or the other part, when you have a loss, is you're betraying your husband or wife when you get out there and date again. And that's a lot to process.
Mhm. Now, you've dated online, right?
Mhm.
And do you remember the first time you did?
Oh my God. Here's what I thought would happen, and then I'll tell you what did happen. So, because it was so new, this was back in like 2010, I thought I should go onto a dating site that has a matchmaker, that there are several sites that have matching. It sounded great because then I wouldn't have to do the work and somebody would know me really well and find the right person, and immediately I would marry again. And so I was also a practicing Orthodox Jew at the time, so I wanted a site that only fed me these Orthodox Jewish men, and I quickly found that I had nothing in common with any of them. The matches were terrible. I couldn't even get on a phone call with any of the matchmakers. Like, just get to know me, because you're matching me with people who are like, what is this? So finally I got on the call with a woman, and she said, "Oh my God, you're awesome. I wish I had a guy for you. There's like nobody on the site." So I got off the site, and then I started doing more broad, like JDate, and then I stopped being Orthodox, so I started broadening. But I really thought that you just put your profile up and immediately you find people. So I
Yeah,
made all
well,
the
there's that
mistakes.
fantasy. Yeah, and I think most people start off with that fantasy. And then they're
Yeah,
disheartened when they say, wow, I see all these pictures and meet all these people and none of them seem right.
I have
right.
to tell you, my hairdresser, who's a cute gal, she's about 40. She's like, I just dyed my hair black again, black because I was a blonde and people kept coming on to me. She said, I'm looking
Yeah,
for,
Blondes don't have more
she
fun.
said, I'm looking for a long-term partner, so I'm trying to look more serious.
that's funny. And then so many people will dye their hair blonde because they think that more people will be attracted to them. There are no hard and fast rules.
You really have to find your own way and you have to be patient and persistent.
Yeah, and intentional. I'm all about intentionality. So if you really want to find a partner again, no
Right.
matter if you've had loss or a divorce or whatever is going on, or you've never been married, you've got to put the work in. You have to know yourself. You have to know what your values are. You have to know what your goals are. You have to know what your lifestyle is. And you have to learn how to communicate all of those things.
It's personal growth to
Yeah.
go through this
Got it.
process because you're having to do a lot of soul searching. It's almost like doing your own internal therapy and you're getting yourself ready for the possibility of meeting a new person and developing a new life. And that's exciting. It can be exciting. And I
Yeah.
think most people forget how much fun and how exciting it can be if you take that attitude.
Yeah.
You've got
And
to see it as that.
guess what, for you people who are listening to this show, it's all about you.
Yes.
All about you.
Yes, and you can't
Yeah.
let other people, influence you too much. You really have to go inside and take a good look at yourself and find out what you want now that you're a different person than when you were in a relationship before. You're older, you're more experienced, you're more mature, hopefully.
Hopefully it's right.
You will be.
I,
Well, you'll learn, that's
Hey,
right.
Sandy,
yeah.
in your book, you talk about how people can create profiles and things like that. If somebody's listening to the show and they're thinking, well, I'm going to wait for my neighbors to find somebody. I'll go to class reunions, and that's fine. But my uncle used to say, if you want to catch fish, go where the fish are. And online is it, isn't it?
It's a very good tool for connecting to people you would never meet in real life. I believe it shouldn't be your only tool. You should do the ask your neighbor, all
Right.
of those things,
All of
get
those
out.
things, all of the above.
Yeah, get out, go to the gym, go to do passionate hobbies, things that you love to do, but also get yourself online and do it the right way. Most people have horrible experiences and they quit and they don't really understand why it didn't work. Most
What's the
of it
most
is,
horrible? What makes those horrible experiences?
yeah. So first of all, not having a thick enough skin, taking everything personally, not being discerning enough, but also really not representing yourself well enough. Your pictures aren't good enough. Your profile doesn't really describe who you are in specifics. We tend to be very generalized. I once worked with a woman who had a horrible divorce and she was hiding. She put herself out there online, but she was hiding. So her pictures were dark and far away. Her profile was so vague and so cliche that she wasn't making any of the first moves. So she got whatever fell in her net, which was a lot of garbage. But then she would date them. forever.
What are guys
Yeah.
looking for online?
Quick lay. No, but honestly, that is a big problem with people who I counseled, and especially men, is that they thought that if they could get a woman to go to bed with them, that they were safe and they were okay, and the woman really liked them. And if she wouldn't go to bed with them, then she really didn't like them. And it was really hard for me to explain to them, no, you have to develop a friendship first. You know, you got to find out if you like the person before you start talking about sleeping with them.
And let me say, you can say that to them when you meet for coffee.
Yes.
I develop friendship.
It takes some of the pressure off because you say, oh, we can develop a relationship before I have to put the pressure to say that I'm interested in you. Oh, well, that's interesting.
I think we have faulty thinking about a lot of things. So if men are thinking, if a woman doesn't respond to my sexual advances right away, she's not interested in me,
Not
which
interested.
is
Yeah.
not true most of the time.
It's not
She's
true.
turned off by him objectifying her and not getting to know her. And women need safety. Women need to have safety first. And so what creates safety is trust. We build trust slowly. We don't just jump in, hopefully. I mean, when you do, often it crashes and burns. And so, the Golden Bachelorette was a great example of this, where she did not have sex with any of the men in the fantasy suites. And I really respected that because it's a great example for people
Well,
how to
that's a
speak
great
about
message.
this.
Let's just cover one last thing before we close the show, and that is fear of being scammed.
Mm. Become educated. Again, I think so much of this whole online dating thing is education. Just like you can get scammed by the IRS, fake IRS, and all the phone calls. We get educated. The AARP will put out articles about that, just like they'll put out articles about romance scamming. So I've written many articles about this. I've been taken in by a scammer very briefly, but very clear that he was inconsistent and there was no way that his profile matched up who he was and how he acted. And so, knowing how to do searches, knowing how to follow your intuition, just don't give people money. I mean, there are so many.
Exactly. Never give money, and we like to say meet them as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Yes,
You know,
meet.
so
Person.
you know it's a real
Yeah.
person.
Yeah. So you also,
Yeah.
whether you have any energy.
And check
around
them
it.
out in E-Verify and other places. Google them, find out information about them that doesn't necessarily come from them.
My,
And that helps you feel more secure.
my son-in-law is an attorney and has some contacts in the world, and he checked Frank out with the FBI.
Oh.
Thank God I passed.
Yeah, really? No skeletons?
Well, Sandy, tell us how people can get in touch with you. What a great thing if you want to date. Here you've got a coach right here to help you.
Thank you. So I'm at lastfirstdate.com and you can find my podcast, my services, my books, my courses. I teach many, many different courses on online dating, communication, boundary skills, how to stop being so fearful. I mean, courses on every aspect of dating. And the books cover all of that as well. And my latest book, Love at Last, which is true stories of couples who found love later in life, because it is possible. And it doesn't matter where you come from and what your background was. And you guys are a perfect example of that.
You can be even 83.
Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Was a
I
young
love it.
in his
Yes.
70s, late 70s.
79.
Well, Sandy, thank you so much for being on the show today. It's been really fun, and we had fun with you. And please check us out at her site on Last First Date. We want to thank everybody for joining us on this show today. And Frank and I want to remind you that if you've lost hope, please lean on ours until you find your own, and God bless.